Do you ever feel like your brain is going to explode with sleep deprivation and questions and concerns and anxiety all around parenting?
Yes, I do for sure. Hi guys, welcome to the Mindful Mummies podcast. Mindful, full as in F-U-L-L. I am Brienne Morissette.
And I am Stina Martinez.
And we are sisters-in-law, and combined we have 4 very busy boys.
Hi everyone, and welcome to episode number 3 of the Mindful Mummies podcast. I'm Stina, and I'm here today with Bree and our special guest, Stefan, her husband, and my brother. And the reason we have them together today is because we have a very important topic we'd like to discuss, which is miscarriage. And they're here to share their story with us.
Yeah, so
Hi,
welcome.
everyone.
Hi, everybody.
Hi, honey. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you.
How are you feeling?
Not too bad.
He's a little reluctant to be joining us
today, and so am I. It's a important topic that we wanted to talk about, and I think for me the biggest reason why I feel like we need to talk about it is because when it happened to us, we had absolutely no idea what was going on, and we felt pretty alone in it all, right?
Yeah, I think, I am a little reluctant, obviously, to put myself out there, and I think we both are, but I think one of the things that we realized when we went through this process was that the amount of information and communication out there is very minimal. It wasn't taught in sex ed, and nobody ever really talks about it, I don't think, when it happens to them. I think that that's got to change for people who are going through it to be a little bit more comfortable. And
Yeah, I mean, I think when we were going through it, I knew what a miscarriage was, obviously, but for it to happen to us, oh my God, that was the last thing I was thinking about when we found out that we were expecting.
Yeah.
So,
well, should we rewind a little bit?
Let's rewind a bit.
Do you
Yeah.
want to tell us a little bit about your story and how you guys decided to have a baby
Start a
in the
family.
first place. Yeah, to start a family.
Yeah. Do you wanna start, or do you want me to go?
Sure, I can start.
Okay.
Basically, we got married, 6 years ago, this May, and moved into Bree's sister and brother-in-law's basement suite, or we were living there when we got married. And we just thought, right after getting married, you know what, let's just try right away, why wait? And
Yeah, we had bought a place in Olympic Village.
yeah, and it was
And we were
year or
just
two
waiting
away.
on it. It was a pre-sale. We were waiting on it to be completed. And so we were like, we've got our place. Let's just go for it.
You knew you wanted to start a family.
We knew we were ready to go right away.
Yeah.
And it happened right away.
Yeah.
It was instant. First try. Yeah. And so, do you want me to I'll take over. So, I'll never forget the day that leading up to the pregnancy test, you feel all the symptoms and you think, is this really happening? Could this be true? Oh my gosh, okay, pregnancy test, take the test. I took it first thing in the morning before you were even awake, took the test, I was pregnant, walked into the bedroom and said, honey, I've got news, I'm pregnant. And you didn't even believe me. You were like, yeah, right, no you're not. Because it was so fast, it was right away. And we just were really excited. We kind of just carried on. And
we told everybody by...
Yeah, we told everyone, all of our family, all of our friends, being rookies at this, thinking that we were in the clear and everything was great.
Yeah. Well, and you're excited and you can't help to start visualizing your life and your dreams.
And from the moment you find out, you've got, that's the thing, is that from the second you find out you're pregnant, you already have a connection. Whether, the thing's just a little tiny seed, but you're picturing your baby, 9-10 months from now, and what it's going to look like, and what color hair it's going to have, and so that was all going through our mind at that time. And it wasn't until about week 10 that we were given the ultrasound date.
Yeah, I think it was actually maybe 9.
Yeah. So, which is crazy because you're going along for 9 weeks thinking that you're pregnant and that everything's fine. And
well, to back that up, when you find out you're pregnant, you're technically 4 weeks pregnant because it's 4 weeks from your last cycle. And so when the day you take that test, you're already 4 weeks. So then another 4 to 5 weeks later is typically when you get your ultrasound.
Right.
Which we did.
So why were you getting ultrasound?
It's just for the first ultrasound that you get for the
dating
ultrasound.
Yeah.
So the first one, and it was just, at a lab, and we went in that day. And do you want to tell that story?
Sure, because it was pretty horrific. So unfortunately, how it works when you get assigned, place to go get your ultrasound, it's just a random whoever has the next available date within your time frame. There's not a lot of choice in it. It's kind of whoever your care provider is says go to this address on this day and you go get an ultrasound. They wouldn't allow me in the room for the first one, and I didn't think anything of it. I was like, okay, well, I'll just wait out here for a few minutes.
That's sort of the protocol here. I don't know what it's like everywhere else. I mean, here they don't allow your husband in the room for the first ultrasound, which I was shocked by. I remember thinking, you're telling me I've got to go in on my own to see my baby by myself? Like, my husband doesn't get to come
and
with
still
me
that
and
way.
Hold my hand and support me through this?
They let him come in after, like midway point, right? I think they do the diagnostic and then they bring.
So the reason for that is the person doing the ultrasound is just a technician. They're not a doctor, so they're not allowed to comment on what they're seeing. They're just there to take pictures and take measurements. And so you have to wait for the doctor to come in, and that's when the husband's allowed to be there.
Well, when I went in recently, I said, "Oh, can I have my partner come in with me?" And I was like, I really want him to be here. And she was like, no, like you're not even going to be able to see anything. I'm just going to do my thing, and then we'll turn the screen around, and we bring partners in when it's time to turn the screen around. So they wouldn't even let me know a thing or see a thing.
No, they don't want you to look at it. Yeah.
Until the other person came, and even then I was like, well, what if something, she's like, no, we'll bring your partner in when it's time.
Yeah. So anyways, you can take it from there because you were in there without me.
Yeah, so I was in this it was like a closet, literally a closet, and the technician was like, are you sure you got your dates right? And I was like, oh, like as soon as she said that, my stomach just sank, and I was like, yeah, I'm pretty positive I've got my dates right. And she said, okay, just hang on a second. And she just said, I'm just going to go get a second opinion here, or
the doctor, the radiologist was the actual doctor came in, and at that point they brought me in, and I think she said, there was no heartbeat, and it was registering 6 weeks when we were at 9.
Yeah, and there was no. It was just so. It was so awful. It was so awful. There was no. I'm sorry that this has happened. I'm sorry that we're just not seeing a heartbeat. It was the doctor literally turned to us and was like, "Oh, no heartbeat. Try again in another month."
Oh. No, he said expect bleeding.
Expect bleeding. Try again in another month.
That was it.
Yeah, and then
no,
left
I'm
the room.
Sorry.
Nothing.
I have some bad news for you.
Nothing. Just expect bleeding. Try again.
Yeah.
In a little bit. Like, no big deal. No big deal.
Yeah.
This is how it goes. Yeah. It didn't work this time.
And did they advise you to go see a doctor?
No.
Literally nothing. We'll contact you. You'll hear from us from your midwife with the results or whatever.
Oh.
And this was on a Friday. And we went in. So then you go into the weekend going, we still don't have a clear answer. Mm-hmm. They're not saying the baby, like they never really officially said to us, because we still were trying to get to the midwives, and there was that whole process.
That was on the second one. Was
that the second? Okay, I'm getting them confused. Ugh. So yeah. So anyways, I guess that was when it was pretty clear.
Yeah.
And our midwives, just to confirm everything, I had to go in and take a blood test and confirm my HCG levels and all of that. And then we were told to go to women's. That was the next process. So then I had to go to women's and have a final exam there, an internal exam where they confirm that everything is.
Was it an ultrasound, an internal ultrasound?
Yeah.
Okay.
And so you go there, and I mean, it's like night and day from the lab to going to women's. They're just incredible at women's, like so empathetic to your situation. And like the lady that, you know, was examining me, she was just like, honey, I'm so sorry that this didn't work out for you, and I can see that there's a baby here, but there's no heartbeat. And yeah, I mean, we just cried, and both of us it took a while for us to even know what was going on. Like, I remember we just called our family right away, and we just were like, wow, like, what is this? What is going on? We don't know anything about miscarriages. We don't know where to go from here. We're in this medical system, and they're moving us from one place to another and giving us more bad news. And then the next thing is that you go in and you have a meeting with the doctor, and the doctor gives you your options, basically.
Okay.
Because my miscarriage was diagnosed as a missed miscarriage. So that's when your body doesn't dispose of the baby on its own.
So if you don't get your period, you don't
bleed. You don't bleed. And eventually probably your body will come around to doing it. But so you're given the options. You're given 3 options. To take pills internally, and that's where you insert them inside of you, or the procedure,
DNC,
which is called a DNC, or to wait and let nature take its course. And we chose to give the pills a try, and that's not 100%. There's still a chance that it won't work. So you give them a go, and that's a whole nother, you know, and that's within 9 hours you'll start to feel.
Yeah, it was like 2 to 3 hours, I want to say, for you, and then it's like
and they prepare you, like they say you need to get yourself prepared, take the day off of work, go and get, you know, these are the supplies that you need a heating pad, you need, you know, because you're gonna be laboring this.
Yeah, it's like a mini labor. It was like an hour-long miniature labor.
And now that I've had babies, I'm like, it was definitely like the early signs of labor. Like, it wasn't as intense as having a baby. I don't know if that was just my case. I have heard for other women that it is just as intense. But yeah, you're fully contracting and in labor. And so I labored.
While your heart is breaking.
While your heart's breaking, I'm, in the bathroom.
I was sitting outside.
You made it outside for me while I went through it. And I was like, it happened. And and it came out, and it was like an instant release, and it was over, and that was it.
Yeah, and then it took, a few weeks of emotional recovery, I think, and physical.
Big time.
For you, and then I want to say a couple months later, we decided, let's start trying again, because we really want to do this. And this time it took 6 months to get pregnant. It wasn't immediate. So then we're like, okay, how is there an issue? And as we'll get into a little bit later with some of the statistics, we may have gotten pregnant during that time, because there's plenty of times where you just have your regular cycle, but you did get pregnant, and your body immediately recognized that it wasn't a viable egg, and it disposes of it so quickly that you never even take the test, because you don't go past your date or far enough past to take a test. So we may have gotten pregnant during that 6 months, but you didn't go far enough past to take a pregnancy test for another 6 months.
How long are you advised to wait after you had a miscarriage to try again?
I think 2 months, 2 cycles.
For us, it was 2 months, but there's controversy on that right now, because a lot of doctors are saying there's no need to wait, that you can just get started on it. However, don't take that advice Always check with your doctor.
Yeah.
Not us. We're not the experts here.
Okay.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, I mean, so then we're pregnant again with the second pregnancy, and obviously
So
extremely
6
months later,
Yeah.
extremely, nervous about everything.
Sorry, what have you learned about, like, at this point, what have you learned about the statistics? Like, do you know what the chances are if you're going to miscarry again? Are you worrying, like, about the...
Yeah, so, no, we hadn't learned as much as we learned after the second one, which we'll get into again, but, you do learn that it is a common thing. To that extent is what we learned, and it's not to be worried until you've had at least 3, is what they say.
Okay.
So after the second miscarriage, we'll just quickly tell that story. You're supposed to wait for 3 to get referred over to what's called a recurrent pregnancy loss clinic at Women's.
Okay.
So you have to have 3 in a row for them to let you in.
Okay.
After we had 2, I was adamant that we get in ran as well.
And I think one thing, I mean, we're going a bit further ahead. We've got to go back a bit. But one thing that we really, really learned that we had to do was, like, advocate for ourselves in this system. And that if it really, truly is that the squeaky wheel gets the grease when it comes to the medical system and dealing with what we were dealing with at the time, miscarriage. Because if you sort of sit back and just kind of let things take its course, it's like you're not getting any answers to any of your questions, and time just goes by, and it's like we were like, we need to figure this out, like we want to start our family. And now it's like, and I was, I was 32 at this time, now 31.
Yeah, about that.
Anyway, so all of that's on our mind.
And your body is going through.
And your body is going through, God, like the hormone, the surge in hormones and the ups and downs, and it's just, it's really unbelievable what you go through with miscarriage and then pregnancy on top of it and having babies. But so back to the second time around.
Okay, so you were trying for 6 months to get pregnant.
Yeah,
again.
the second time around, it took us 6 months. Yeah, and I mean, it's funny because the second one is like a bit of a fog in my memory. The first one was like I remember it a lot more, probably because it was just so shocking. But the second time around, we got pregnant. This time around, yeah, Stefan was very adamant that we needed to get in right at the 8-week mark. So we went in for the first ultrasound, dreading every moment of it and terrified. And
this time you went somewhere different?
Yeah, we went to a different location, and it was on a Friday afternoon, which through this experience I don't recommend doing, because what happened is, same scenario as the first one, they wouldn't let me in, and I was like ready to just lose it on this lady who wouldn't let me in. I'm like, I don't care what you're saying, I'm going in that room, like we've already been through this once. And I'm not letting my wife go in there by herself. And I got so heated that Brianne was like, Stefan, it's okay. Like, just come in 5 minutes. It'll be all right. And it took 25 minutes while I stood outside, like, pacing, literally, like, not able to breathe, walking in circles, like, running up, down the hallways, like, literally losing my mind, waiting to be allowed in there and wanting to just walk in and open the door.
They were in there for 25 minutes.
Yeah, well, what happened
and that's
is...
when you know something's wrong.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, exactly.
It's taking
So
that
as
long,
time goes
it's
on, I'm
like-
like, what is going
And
on?
we
what
go
are you
again.
thinking? Are you like, I want to go get Stefan? Are
I'm
you
just lying there, like, they're silent. They're not telling me anything. I'm lying there and I'm going, here we go again. Here we go again. And then she was like, I think I'm going to have to do an internal ultrasound on you because I'm not getting anything right now. And so I was like, oh, great. This is it. This is it. And she did the internal ultrasound. All she said to us was, she goes, okay, we can go get your husband now. And that was it. Like, she didn't tell me anything. She just said, we can go get your husband now. Bring Stefan in. We both look at each other like, this is... I think you could see the look on my face right away that it didn't look Like,
Yeah, and I could see on the screen it shows when they measure. It actually shows how many weeks it's supposed to be when they measure it, and it was like 2 weeks before what we were supposed to be. And then I was like, "Did you see a heartbeat?" And she kind of didn't really say anything.
Yeah,
She didn't really
she's
say
like,
yes
your
or
midwives
no.
will let you know.
Yeah, and then
everything.
and why
They
the
won't tell
Friday's
you.
no good is because the doctor went home early because it was a Friday, so he went home to go be with his family.
So you couldn't have the
Couldn't have a conversation with the doctor until Monday.
Left
So
early
we
for
go
the day.
home knowing in our mind that it's true, but with no verification from anybody that it is a miscarriage or going to be. So we didn't sleep that night, go home totally sick.
The next day we just
half a bottle of
talked.
whiskey.
The next day we just got up and we were like, you're spinning in your head. What do we do? How do we get confirmation on this? We can't wait till Monday to find out. And went to the hospital. And we sat in St. Paul's Hospital all day. And they did an ultrasound on me there and kind of just, what happened there? We had an amazing doctor. The guy was great that came in. And he just said,
he verified it. He basically said,
it looks like it's not.
Yeah.
So why didn't you go to
vital.
women's? I guess you can't go to women's. There's no.
I don't
I
know.
think we had a better chance of getting in at St. Paul's or something.
I think we went through emergency or something. That's
right,
why.
and there's no emergency at women's.
No.
Right.
No.
Yes, that's
Yeah.
why.
So to get care immediately, you have to go to emergency. So that's what we did, and I'm pretty sure he verified it. He's like, really sorry, but don't worry about it. It'll happen. Yeah, and then on Monday, the midwives called and verified what we already knew from going to emergency. And then this time is when we advocated to get to the recurrent pregnancy loss clinic, and I think we got in there pretty quickly, within a couple of weeks after finding out that it wasn't going to be viable. And what was interesting about that is, we had to get in quick because they wanted to do some testing.
Yeah, and because now I had 2 miscarriages in a row, I was considered high risk. So they got me into women's right away and proceeded to start all the testing that you have to go through. And both Stefan and I had to go through a series of tests. I think it was a little easier for you. Yeah.
You can imagine.
Yeah.
It's just one test.
Yeah.
So you got test results back?
So just I wanted to just back up a little bit with the second miscarriage. So with this second miscarriage, because it was now my second miscarriage and I was considered high risk, once again I had to go through the process of inserting the pills in my apartment and laboring the baby or the fetus out. But this time around, this is hard to hear, but they wanted me to keep the fetus. And so I had to have the fetus and I had to save it and put the fetus in the refrigerator.
Wow.
Yeah, which was interesting. That was pretty traumatizing.
Yeah, and that's because they wanted to test it for chromosomal abnormalities, which is usually what is the cause.
Yeah.
Majority of them is due to that, and so they wanted to test for that.
Oh my gosh, I can't.
So then we did all the testing.
Yeah,
and,
it was awful.
Went in and saw some pretty incredible doctors who obviously deal with people who are struggling all the time because they were super empathetic. It was a whole nother world.
Yeah.
Meeting these people, and there was 2 different ones, and they were both amazing. And we'll get into an interesting coincidence later in the story. But one of the people that we met with ended up actually helping us out with Jake's pregnancy, with the birth.
Yeah, she delivered Jake.
She helped deliver him at the end.
Yeah. So, and then so they proceeded to do the testing on us, and that took months. So that's a whole nother.
To try again.
Because they want to. Yeah, and they want to make sure that we're doing everything that we need to. They didn't want me to get pregnant again and then have another miscarriage.
Yeah.
They wanted to know if I needed to be on medication or something. If they could do anything to help me to prevent me from having another miscarriage. But what they found out was that there was nothing wrong with either of us, and they literally came back and they were like, it was a fluke. It was a total fluke that you had 2 miscarriages in a row. We're not finding anything wrong with you guys, and you literally just had bad luck.
Yeah.
And we were told to just keep trying.
How are you feeling like emotionally at this point? Were you eager to try again, or were you sort of feeling like you need to take a break from it all?
It's so hard because it's exhausting, and like I hate doctors' offices anyways, and I'm not someone that like enjoys going. I don't know if anybody does, but it makes me very anxious. And you're exhausted. You're going through so many tests, and you've labored out had these miscarriages at home. It's just such a long process. And of course we had those conversations of like, maybe we just need to give it a break and like go on vacation, or I don't know, like forget about having kids for a while. And after the second miscarriage, like I just really crossed over to being like, I came to a place of comfort, like knowing that maybe me having my own biological children was not going to happen. Like I just, even after 2 miscarriages, which is like crazy because some people can have like 7 miscarriages or 8, like you can have a ton of miscarriages, but even I'm surprised with myself that I was able to kind of cross over to that. And without telling Stefan, I was starting to look at like the adoption process and online and everything. And I was like, well, you know what? I'm just going to get to a place of comfort, and maybe when I can cross over to that place mentally, then maybe something will happen, or I don't know. And
it's part of your healing process.
Yeah. And then we moved into our place that we had bought, and that was like a really nice year for us. And we had just we'd been waiting for years and years to get into this one particular place. We moved in, and then it was like we tried right away as soon as we moved in, and it happened. We got pregnant.
Pretty much right away again on the third time,
instantly. Yeah. So, and then fast forward a couple weeks, and we were at home one night, and I started bleeding. And I was like, and keep in mind, I had never bled before with either of my miscarriages. So I'm going like, okay, this is really official. I'm really miscarrying. This is now miscarriage number 3. And I because I am Rh negative, that's a whole nother thing. You can look it up. You have to go and get shots to prevent a future. Help me with this.
So the baby, when you're if your blood type is negative and your partner's is positive,
right?
The baby's blood is positive. The positive and negative blood cells fight each other,
right?
And so if the baby's blood cells and your blood cells come into contact, the mother can get really sick and potentially the future baby. It's actually not a concern to your current baby; it's a concern to the mom and your future baby,
right?
So you get a shot. I think at like 21 weeks, and then you get a shot when you're in labor, and then you get a shot right after the baby's born to help stop that from happening and affecting future births.
Right.
Yeah.
So I was bleeding. The bleeding stopped. It wasn't heavy. And we of course called the midwife, and she said, you know what, you should. It is common to have some spotting. However, you should go to the hospital and just have them check you, and you also need to go now get your RH or your Rogan shot. So I was like, so I had to go in, and I went in, and I waited expecting to hear the baby's gone, no heartbeat. And I waited, and I was all by myself, and Stefan was at work, and you came, and
I came, yeah.
you couldn't find me. I had waited all day, and then finally made it into a room, and I just sat on the table, and I was like, give it to me. Like, let me know. It's gone, isn't it? And she went, oh, there it is. And I was like, what do you mean? And she was like, see that little thing there? It's flashing. And I was like, what do you mean it's flash? She's like, that's the heartbeat. And I just like, oh, I'm going to cry. I just burst into tears. And I just said, you have no idea how amazing that news is to me right now. And Stefan was standing, we were like trying to find each other in the
it was like a movie
hospital
moment.
It was like a total movie moment, and I ran over to him, and I was like, there's a heartbeat. And it was only he was only 6 weeks. So, and she was just like, yeah, that's a strong heartbeat for 6 weeks. And that was it. And then of course Stefan went home and like was on the computer and he's like researching like the statistics for when you hear the heartbeat at 6 weeks and like what are the chances of survival and and so we just were like ecstatic and we continued on with
you still need to go at 9 weeks to do another dating one because the odds are pretty damn good after 6 weeks. After you see a heartbeat, they're very good. But they go to like, 99% after 9 weeks with a heartbeat. So we had to go for the 9 week. And for this one, I started doing some research and found a private ultrasound clinic for about $120. And they had a really comfortable room and they brought me in, unlike the last 2 times. And I sat in a chair and she's like, oh, bring out your iPhone, take some video. And, it was a whole different experience. So I would highly recommend spending $100 if you can afford it.
If you've gone through this before
and you just don't want to have to go through like the super impersonable like lab testing situation and all that. But they still kept me on at Women's for a bit because they wanted to monitor me. And then as soon as we got the like 9 week ultrasound where everything was fine, it was like they released me to the midwives and they were like, you're good to go. And then we made it. You just every month you're like holding on for dear life, okay, and you're scared to tell people. But it's funny because people always ask, like should you tell your family and friends before the 3-month mark? And for me, I was like really happy that I did, I think, because I want those people to be there for me no matter what, through good or bad. So I don't know, it's everybody's own decision, but for me, I wanted to tell people. And, it's not like I told extended family or announced it on Facebook or anything, but, I think we were careful about who we told, but we always knew our core group always knew. And, and so we just plugged along, and then it was when did they discover the fluid?
Oh god, that's a long
So this was another bit of a scary moment.
I think it was around 12 weeks.
Yeah.
So or maybe it was the 9 week. Anyway, when you go for a later ultrasound, one of the things they look for is the gap between the neck skin and the spine, and if it's a large gap, that's indicative of chromosomal abnormalities. But with the new technology, there's a test called the NIPT where they take your blood test and it rules out, I think, all 6 of those things. And so at the same time, while we were waiting for those results, is when we saw the fluid. So we're like, oh no. But then a week later, we got the NIPT results and they were
But once
clear.
again, they gave us like so we've discovered that there's some fluid behind the neck and this is what this could mean, and we're just going, oh my god, so now we're pregnant, but our baby has a chromosome abnormality. But we got the NIPT test and found out that everything was just fine and that we were having a boy, which is crazy because you can find out if you want with a blood test at 10 weeks. So we knew by 10 weeks that we were having a boy. And then carried on, and I had a wonderful pregnancy, and Jake came at 37 weeks, and he was healthy and wonderful, and we had our beautiful rainbow baby.
Rainbow baby, yeah.
Which I never even knew the term until later. I didn't even know that was a thing, but it's kind of special, kind of nice.
And you've talked a little bit before about how your first pregnancy was actually a really positive experience for you because you were just feeling so much gratitude.
Yes.
And like relief.
I was just so happy that everything was fine and that I was finally going to have my babe in my arms.
What about you, Stefan? I know you worry about everything, so were you feeling still stressed throughout the pregnancy, or did you kind of relax after the NIPT?
Yeah, no, as soon as we got those results, I knew the statistics go above 99%, and I was super confident and excited, so I was able to get pretty stoked.
Nice.
And start all the planning stuff that you do.
Yeah.
Yeah, finally go get like a crib and set up the room and all that stuff. So
yeah. So you guys have sort of said that with the first miscarriage, you didn't have a lot of facts and you felt pretty alone and scared in that process. And then with the second one and the third baby, you felt better equipped because you had educated yourselves and advocated for yourselves. So for people who may be going through this or know someone going through this, what sort of facts do you think are important to know and helpful to know when you're going through it?
Yeah, I think, well, one of the things that was a shock to us, which I think I mentioned, is just that until you go through it and start talking to other people that you know about it, you don't realize how many people have been affected by miscarriage. Like, it's literally more than half of our family and friends, either they have had one or more, or they know somebody very close to them who has. Mm-hmm. But it's just not really, it's a taboo topic to talk about, but
which is crazy.
It's a huge amount of people. And what's super fascinating or interesting is that literally more than, I have it right in front of me here, if you include non-implantation, where the egg doesn't actually implant, 70 to 75% of all conceptions result in pregnancy loss. 3/4 of every time that sperm goes into the egg doesn't actually make it to pregnancy or to full term. So when you know that far more than half of all pregnancies don't make it, you don't feel so terrible.
Alone and like something's wrong with you. Yeah.
Well, yeah, and talk about that. How did you feel? We felt like something was wrong with us, and that I
remember saying to you, especially with the second time, I was like, "What's wrong with me?
Yeah.
Like, why can't I carry a baby? What is wrong with me?" And it's just because I had no idea how common it was.
Yeah.
And the more I talk, it's just like anything. The more you open up about something, the more people open up to you about it. Totally. And you start to realize, whoa, it actually is really, really common, and you're totally not alone in this. Mm-hmm. And it's important this is why I wanted Stefan to be on here so badly, was because I think, the guys or the partner is going through it too. It's their loss as well, and so I think it's nice to have Stefan here, because he can kind of talk on behalf of the partner that's involved in the relationship, the husband or the wife, or yeah.
So speaking about your relationship, how did this affect your relationship when you were going through it? Was it hard? Like, you had just gotten married. It was a pretty early on in your relationship to be going through some really challenging things. So how did you guys deal with that?
I think it made us stronger for sure. Like, if you can't get over, if you can go through something like this together, you can go through anything together, right? Like.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that. I think it was definitely very difficult on both of us, and taxing emotionally. But yeah, like you said, getting through it together made it all more special when we actually had our babies, and I think we're stronger than ever because of it. Mm-hmm. For sure.
And yeah, you learn to rely on each other, and you learn that you can rely on each other, and really tests your relationship.
For sure.
Yeah.
And I know that you guys also have said you've told people earlier on, and you did rely on your friends and family. What did you find helpful from your friends and family when you were going through this?
I think that like there were several people who just came by. I'm not going to mention names because I don't want to like hurt anybody's feelings, but there were several people who came by and with like a basket of just like food and like, I'll remember a bottle of wine and like a baguette and like just all the comfort stuff that you needed to just, and it was the people that didn't even really say much. They just were like made it known that their presence was here and that they were here for you, and was there anything for you that stood out?
Yeah, not as much. Obviously I don't think the male side talks about it as much, but I definitely did talk to my best friends, and they gave me some support, and I think it's, as the husband, you're trying to more be the rock for you.
Yeah.
So I think I was more trying to be supportive to you than really leaning on anybody else. But yeah, I think all in all, like, our entire friend and family group was there for us, and we knew that, and it was helpful.
Mm-hmm.
What did you find not helpful?
Yeah, like the people that would be like, oh, it just wasn't meant to be. It's okay, like, you'll get pregnant eventually, and you'll have a baby, like, it's fine. Like, I like to hear, like, oh, don't worry, you're gonna have a baby one day. I always thought that was nice, but it's people that, like, feel the need to, like, fix it, or just, like...
Or blow it off.
Or just be like, it's not a big deal, like, it's gonna happen again. You have no problem getting pregnant. Mm-hmm. Don't worry about it. Like, you're gonna have a baby,
And it's more like you don't want to hear that. You just want to hear like, I'm so sorry. Like, what can I do? What can I do? What do you need from me? Especially like this was our first baby, but I can imagine for people that have a kid already and they're going through a miscarriage, offer to spend time with their older child, babysit or take their other child out, because there's no doubt that other child is picking up on what's going on, or feeling maybe the effects of it in some way. So I don't know. It was just nice to hear from people that we're here for you. What can we do to help? And just for people to be there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Nice. Okay.
Yeah.
What would you say, or what advice would you give to someone who's going through this right now, as far like maybe top 3 things that you would tell someone who might be going through a miscarriage and come across our podcast and be searching for some tips or advice?
Well, even though you said that you hated hearing this from people, I think it is important to know that, it likely will happen. It just will take time and effort and energy. That when you look at some of these statistics that, half of all pregnancies or more don't work out, it's just a numbers game. And so you have to, stick with it and support each other through it. But it will eventually happen for the vast majority of people out there. Mm-hmm. And it's not easy. The road is different for everybody and it's always challenging. But the chances are that if you stick with it and stick with each other, that it'll happen eventually.
I think the big one for me was just getting to a place of being able to open up to people about it and share my experience. And then once I did that, like I had said before, people open up to you about their experience, or they say, oh, the same thing happened to my sister or my mom or my aunt or whatever. And then once you do that, you just realize you're so not alone in this, like that it's so common, so common. Yeah, and that there is nothing wrong with you. Yeah. So that's a big relief.
Yeah, another one for me, I would say, is just make sure that you advocate for yourself within the system. I mean, it's a great system that we have here, but it's definitely important that you push to get through.
This is our little rainbow baby.
We've got our rainbow baby just woke up
from his nap.
Want to say hi, Jake? Oh, he's yawning. Anyway, so yeah, just to push through the system as much as you can to get the best care that you can, because there's so many different legs along the way, and you have to do your research to try to understand how that all works and advocate for yourself. And that brings me also to another one of just doing your research. So I've given a couple statistics here, but it is important to know these, I feel, because you feel less, like a failure or like something's wrong with you if you know these statistics. And a couple more that I'll just quickly give you is that one of the reasons people say wait till 12 weeks is because that's the best chance of carrying to term once you get past 12 weeks. But the real indicator is a heartbeat after 9 weeks takes you to 99% or more likelihood. If you see a heartbeat at any time after 6 or 7 weeks, when you can see it, it's less than 4% in a miscarriage. And so yeah, I mean, that's what you're looking for, and that's kind of what you're hoping to see, and what we finally saw with Jake.
Yeah. Well, thanks so much, guys, for sharing your story. I know that it will be super helpful and meaningful to so many of our listeners.
Yeah,
it's not easy to do. So
no, it's reliving it all over again. But it's good. It's a good thing. You're much better at dealing with, like, having your emotions and thinking about it. And I'm like one of those people that kind of pushes it aside and I don't want to think too much about it. But I think this is the reason why I wanted to do it, was because I think that it will be very helpful for people that are going through it. And yeah, and if you have any questions at all, I'm happy to answer any of them. You can email us now at the mindfulmummiespodcast@gmail.com.
Yeah.
Or you can DM us on Instagram. And yeah.
And we have a new blog, so we'll be posting some of the statistics that Stefan was talking about and some links for information if you're looking for more information that we talked about on this podcast. We'll be posting it up on our blog as well, and we'll link that in our Instagram page.
Yeah, perfect.
Thanks, Stefan. Thanks, Bree.
No
Thanks,
problem.
Jakey.
No worries.
Bye-bye.
Take some pictures.
Bye. Thanks, everyone. We'll see you next time.